Welcome back to Malaka Motorsports. I'm Stav. That is George. And there is Cleo. Where is she? There she is. All right, so today we're going to be doing my favorite thing on earth. And what is that, George? Taking apart 24 valves and probably not ever putting it back together. So today we are going to be doing a disassembly of the R32 motor that we got from the junkyard just 2 weeks ago. We're going to do a disassembly. We're going to find out if anything else is wrong with it, if the cylinders need to be bored out, what the health and condition of this motor is. Anything you need to say, George?
So
no, he doesn't have to say anything. No, I'm joking. Let's go back to George.
We have the spare motor inside the RS3.
Yes.
We're going to leave that in there for mock-up. We're still waiting on quite a few parts. As you see, the Ferrero valve train kit came in from MotorSports.
Ooh, so, Ferrero valves. We can't show them today because it's all wrapped up.
So big thanks to MotorSports. These actually shipped really quick. And then Schimmel Performance actually sent out these VVT for variable valve timing deletes that we may or may not use on the 3.2. There's going to be an experiment. So HST, the company that we got the valve cover from and is also making our tubular manifold, actually deletes only the exhaust cam on the VVT and then also does only uses VVT on the intake cam. So we're going to experiment to see what works best for us. So for 260 bucks, I think it was pretty affordable, I think, for these billet pieces. So I picked up a set from Bill Schimmel over at SP Turbo. And then we got our cat cams came in, same cams that HST runs on their drag car that they cracked low sevens on their last run. But again, this motor is going to stay here for mock-up, and then.
And what kind of cams did you get, George?
I got cat cams.
What duration? Come on, 276.
I'll put a screenshot real quick showing the specs, so this way you guys can see it. It was a recommended from us from Hubert over at HST. We were kind of going back and forth between Schrick and cat cams. And mind you, we're sticking with people that go fast. We're listening to people that go fast with VR6 cars.
Correct.
I believe Schrick, USP Motorsport, uses HST, who's been, man, these guys have been pretty awesome. Hubert and them have been giving us a ton of advice, especially in the R30 setup. So they use cat cams, and they had actually a set in stock. So since I'm getting the tubular manifold from them, and they had a cat cam set in stock, I just ended up picking it up from them, and then they shipped it. It got here from Austria in like 4 days.
Correct.
You know.
We can't even get parts in the United States in 4 days.
For this motor, we're going to be separating pretty much everything. We're going to be looking at rod bearings. We're going to be looking at the mains. We're going to take a look at the crank. Even though we're not reusing the 3.2 liter crank, we're going to be using a 2.8 liter crank that we have as a spare.
Out of what motor, George? I mean, 2.8 what? How many valves is that motor?
I mean, if I had a spare 24 valve, it's the same crank. I would use the spare 24 valve crank.
The question is, how many valves did the motor come out of?
For the crank that we're using, we're using a 2.8 crank out of a spare broken 12 valve.
Not broken. It was in my car at one point, and
it is now broken, but the crank is good. So we're going to reuse the crank. We're actually going to.
It's not broken, I promise you. Ran 35 psi, no problems.
So we're going to be using the 2.8 crank out of Stav's spare 12 valve, and then just understand that the 24 valve and 12 valve cranks are identical. They're forged, and we need that.
12 valve is stronger though.
We need that because we're going to be de-stroking the motor and using a custom length and piston for this R37.
So 2 videos ago, you told everyone you have some secrets that are going into the motor to make this car potentially go fast. But now you're revealing it's 12 valve parts. That's great. I mean, I'm really happy to hear that.
Yes, Stav. So instead of me going to pick up a spare 2.8 24 valve motor, I'm going to be grabbing one of Stav's spare cranks and then using in this motor. Without further ado, let's kick this off and let's get this motor turned apart so you guys can see the RS3/R32 breakdown.
Damn, George, what we got here?
Look at that.
Ooh, look at that. Look at all that carbon buildup.
You think these are good for 1,000 horsepower or what? But my friend's family's cousin's sister said it was good.
And it has to be good. Has to be good.
One injector broke off too. I gotta fucking pull it out. Look, it's right here. Oh, there we go. Oh, look at that.
That is nice and baked on.
Good for about half a gallon of FETA. So,
well.
So, I mean, there's really important stuff that we do with this.
Yeah.
And this is the Oem Fuel Rail. It's a really, really good fuel rail.
Show them what we do here with that. Somebody on the internet's gonna be like, "Hey man, can I get that?" No, I was like, my fuel rail is from something busted on it. Can you send me that one?
So check this out. 034 Stav bought me a flywheel 034
Fuel rail?
Fuel Rail for my
Let's
birthday.
go look at it. Let's go look at it.
Go look at it as I keep working.
Shameless plug over here. You know, Stav's a very generous guy. You know, definitely get George the good stuff. I tried to get it in black. Unfortunately, they only had silver. I'm sorry if you guys had to look at this.
Unfortunately.
Well, I just had to look at this terrible non-eye candy, you know?
I like it in silver. And their catch can that you got me that they sent over came in black anodized, which, you know, again, I'm not a super big fan of.
Okay, I want to give
finish.
a full disclosure here. Because I ordered it early, we could have got it in silver, but I made sure we got it in black. Just want to throw that out there. They were willing to send it to us in raw metal.
So we're going to continue to break everything apart. We took off the stock intake manifold. We took off the fuel rail. You can actually see the ports real quick too. I'll show them. Again, looks like this 3.2 didn't get much love. And she's also, look at all that carbon buildup. Look at all that. So obviously with the machining, the cleanup, all that's going to be cleaned up and kind of
hot tanked and everything.
But it's getting there, guys. We're taking this thing apart slowly but surely. A lot of the plastics that hold the electronics are going to get replaced. We're going to be, for those of you guys asking, how the hell are you going to get this engine to run in the RS3? So we actually have the Tupperware over there with the RS3 harness off the Daza 5-cylinder engine. And we also have it together with the, I know it kind of looks like a mess.
Because it is a mess. But
and we also kept the stock accessories too before I sold the motor. But Cyvex is going to run the VR6 here perfectly. The only thing we're changing is the motor and then adding small additions to cover obviously the extra cylinder and the other little small accessories and coverages we're going to be having for things we want to monitor. So wiring this thing shouldn't be a big issue. Again, Cyvex provides the pinout on their website.
Correct.
I'll do a little screenshot of the pinout real quick, and I'll put the link in the description for those of you guys that want to check it out. For those of you guys that want to run it on your 5-cylinder RS3, Cyvex offers anyone the pinout free on their website. So if you order their kit, you can wire it in yourself. Tuning is going to be, of course, another issue. We're going to default to Turbo Joe when it comes to this stuff, but running this engine shouldn't be an issue. Anyway, let's continue on and breaking this thing down. We're going to take all the accessories off. We're going to take this driver's side engine bracket off, all the oil cooler. We still have the torque converter and flywheel that we're going to be taking off the back and all the other accessories on the side of the motor. So let's continue working to get this thing broken down. And
at least this goes from one automatic to really another automatic.
That is true. All right, so let's keep working here. I got the power steering, the AC. The cool thing is I'm not going to have to reinstall the power steering as the RS3 is fully electric, but I do plan on running air conditioning in this car as it kind of spoiled me in the RS3 versus not running it in the B5. Stav, what do you got there?
Well, this is the original, maybe even factory thermostat housing, but it looks like you can see here a buildup of old coolant. You definitely had a little bit of a leak on this motor, but luckily we are going to be switching to these cast pieces.
Yeah, this is from iBet Engineering. Is Sam, same guy who also supplied us with the B5 12 valve and 24 valve engine brackets for the B5 for the swap. So we're going to be using the metal cast thermostat housings, and what we're going to be doing for a lot of these is welding on AN fittings, so it makes it a little bit for removal and install a little bit easier. So we're not going to go with the slip-ons. We are going to be putting AN just to make it a lot easier.
Like maybe a dash 14.
But the cool thing is, as we're removing these things, we're finding VR6 swap parts. For those of you guys that don't know, and if you are following the forums, understand that the driver's side coolant hose can be reused for the VR6 swap. The passenger side coolant pipe can be reused for the VR6 swap and the B5. So as you guys are going and rummaging through these junkyards and finding these Touareg motors, understand they are gold, because that pipe is about $200 on the left at aluminum. That there is about $125 new from Volkswagen. You could get for under $500 if you buy a spare motor.
Mm-hmm. Everybody needs a spare R32 motor.
Correct. All right, so all the accessories are pretty much off. I'm going to take off the accessory bracket, then going off to the engine bracket itself. I'm going to remove the crack pipe. I'm going to remove the water pump. And then we'll talk about the crank pulley here in just a second and have some fun with that here. But let's continue on. Let's keep ripping things off this motor and then see where she, how she looks. Top of the valve cover.
Looks nice and clean.
Show them the coil packs too.
Oh yeah, look at the coil packs. All definitely some moisture has gone down here in this area.
Motor's probably been sitting there God knows how many weeks, and we don't get a lot of rain here, but I imagine it did rain down there for a little bit and just pulled up water. I don't know. It looks nasty. Yep. But then you open up the valve cover and then you have hibiscus paint all over the place.
This is not hibiscus, my friend. Never will hibiscus be on a 24 valve.
Yeah, that's pretty dark. Luckily, a lot of this stuff's going to get cleaned up with
hot tanking it.
With hot tank and cleaning it up. We've seen so much. My 2.8 and even your 12 valve was so much cleaner than this. And then, in fact, the head on that motor too is about this color too. So I don't know.
Definitely, maybe some high duration between oil changes, but you could see some carbon buildup. But again, it's kind of like unknown miles. We know it's above 200,000.
Yeah, and say this, right? You know, people, if you're doing oil changes, do not wait till 8,000 miles to do oil changes on your motors.
Correct.
But this, again, came out of a Touareg. You know, it's a 3.2. If it would have probably came out of a Mark IV, it either would have been blown up because someone was trying to put a turbo kit on it, or it would have been really well taken care of. So, or maybe even both. But yeah, no, I don't see any scoring anywhere. Anything. I haven't taken apart any of the caps yet, but we're gonna start undoing the head bolts, and we're gonna separate, take a look at the pistons and the valves. But the motor turns over pretty easily too, nice and smooth. So hopefully everything's nice and clean and nice. But as dirty as this is, I imagine the top of the pistons and the valves might be a little nasty too.
Yep.
Because if they went 8,000 to 10,000 miles between oil change intervals, I imagine they went like 50,000 miles between spark plug changes and everything else.
The Touareg, this motor's gonna be a little bit dirtier because the fact that it's more than likely they're running pump gas through this thing the whole time.
Yeah, 87 octane as opposed to like, you know, 85 or anything else.
85.
So yeah, it's to be honest with you, it's not as clean as what I hoped, but $500, you got yourself an R32 3.2. All this stuff can get cleaned up with hot tanking from the machine shop too, so it'll look like brand new. Plus the new cat cams will really kind of spruce it up a little bit too, and all the Ferrero valve trains, springs, retainers. It's gonna look pretty cool. It's gonna look badass.
I'm for a 24 valve, yeah. All right.
Let's continue on stuff.
Guys, so we got the head off. We got the cylinder head over there. What is? Are you washing your hands with Windex?
Yeah, and I had a couple cuts in my hand too. It helps everything, you know, heal up real quick.
That's everyone's gonna say that stereotype is true for my big wedding.
Stereotype? What are you talking about? No, it works really well and it cleans really well. Like I had this little cut. Look, it's gone now.
All right, so we got the cylinder head off, and the pistons look really good actually.
Aside from being dirty and burnt in certain areas, but there's no hit marks as far as I can tell.
No, there's no hit marks at all. So that's pretty awesome. You know, the cylinders look pretty darn good actually.
Yeah, I don't see any scoring, and I don't feel anything crazy here. And we're gonna go half over too, so we're gonna go from 84 to 84 and a half, just to kind of clean up everything up. So, yeah, it should come out really nice. And the valves actually looks pretty good too.
Yeah, the cylinder head doesn't look bad at all. Not too much. I mean, you don't see really any.
Well, usual crud you have between all the cylinders, and then you can look at the same discoloring too from all the oil passageways. So all this is going to be cleaned, and we're not going to go with oversized valves. I went with the Ferrero stock size valves like I did on my 2.8, but this being a 3.2 flowing much better than the 2.8 VRs, I think we should be okay.
Correct. They have the larger valves, but it looks overall pretty good. Not too much carbon buildup. Just look like
not too much carbon buildup.
Oh no, definitely.
Don't mind the bread that's kind of building up over here.
Oh my God, that's terrible. But we're gonna pull apart. Now we're gonna turn the motor upside down, right? We're gonna check the bearings.
Yeah. So we looked at the head, and I'm gonna move the head towards the back over there. Hopefully, it doesn't drip any more oil, but that's why we have the cardboard on top of the table. And then what I want to do is take the oil pan off, take a look at the mains, pop the pistons out, just make sure that the rest of the cylinder looks good. And I'm pretty confident. Things are looking really promising right now. I think we'd be able to take this apart. And
you can tell this is a good working motor when you pull it. Oh, darn it.
When you drop the
head gasket. Because we're going to reuse the head gasket, you know? You know, a $40 head gasket, we're definitely going to reuse it.
No,
but
of course you can. Look, just a little Windex. Little Windex.
So, I mean, if you check, I mean, doesn't look like anything was leaking here. Definitely look like the motor had good compression. So
I just don't see anything wrong mechanically so far. So if
other than it being a 24 valve, you mean?
As long as everything on the bottom end looks as good as it does on the top end, I think we have a really good candidate. We'll start boxing everything up, as Stav has alluded to on his Instagram, and then on the Malaka MotorSports one as well. We're going to be sending his spare motor and mine out for some special stuff at one machine shop. So we have some cool stuff that's in the works.
Oh man, you're definitely revealing what's going on.
I don't want to say too much, but Stav's got a spare motor that he wants to do some crazy
George doesn't want to say too
stuff
much, but he's going to tell you the entire plan right now.
Not going to say too much. Let's pull apart the bottom end.
Not going to say too much. Tell him the exact build, George.
We're gonna pull apart the bottom end.
All right, let's pull it apart.
Bearing surfaces look really, really nice. Again, a lot of discoloration because of the old ass oil they used with the long intervals between oil changes, but everything looks pretty good. Crank surfaces look good. Again, we're not going to be using the 3.2 crank. We're going to be de-stroking the motor, so we're going to be using a 2.8. It's one of the spare ones we have on the shelf. But we ended up taking, look at that, not so bad at all. 40,000 miles it said on the windshield over there?
38.
Did it? Man, that's crazy. Aside from the discoloration, I mean, everything looks pretty good. Aside from the dirt. Yeah, look at that. Mint. No damage to the rings. Again, just a lot of crud buildup. And again, that's normal for such a high mileage motor. And then we got the stock crank pulley, which we're going to do a whole episode on, as we're not going to be reusing it. We're going to be using a fluid dampener, and why and how and why should you upgrade to a fluid dampener. We'll get into it in another episode. But yeah, that's the motor, guys. It's pretty much apart. All the accessories are pretty much on the side. We're going to be retaining the accessory bracket that's all the way in the corner. Some of the actual accessories like the air conditioning, the alternator, timing covers, those are going to get cleaned up and powder coated. But this motor is, without me actually popping off the bearings and getting the oil squirters out, we're going to get this prepped on a pallet and get this ready to get shipped out along with the rest. But we got to wait for the rest of the parts to come in.
For a $500 motor that we got out of a pickup part, it's actually in very good condition. Like, you could have ran this motor if we wanted to. I mean,
what, stock block?
No, like head gas spacer motor. Like, it's a good motor, like bottom end wise. Like,
what, you start blaming crank pulleys why things blow apart? Stock block motors?
No,
that's not the way we roll,
That's not the way we roll, man.
So again, this is going to be the donor motor that we're using to send out for machining. I have the spare one. Again, another 500. I think Stav ended up getting this for what, $200?
$200. $178. Let's not exaggerate. You know?
So, man, that took about an hour or so, hour and a half.
Correct.
Take it all apart, and again, we'll get it off the engine stand. Oh, and I wanted to talk about this. A lot of YouTubers have posted on this like custom engine stand mounts and stuff that they, mind you, there's some really cool stuff that people sell, but this is a Harbor Freight stand. We just took the arms off, notched this edge so it clears this oil galley, and it bolts right up. Three points, just like the other one does that people sell for. I think it's like $150, $200. But the one that came with it, we use it, mounts right up, and it works just fine. Rotates. We've been using this now for 4 years now with no any issues. Just FYI, so you don't have to buy anything fancy if you don't want to. Again, just notching the edge of this Harbor Freight engine stand, and it takes the same bolts and hardware, and you can bolt it up and use this as an engine stand.
Correct. You don't have to buy an expensive one.
So that about wraps it up, guys. That is the RS3/R32 engine breakdown for the VR6 RS3. We got a lot more parts coming, a lot more updates coming as things progress.
The next 2 weeks, we're going to have a lot of things coming in.
Yeah, a lot.
But what's bigger, your turbo or your cylinder head?
They're the same size. So guys, that about wraps it up. If you guys have any questions, anything you think we missed, maybe suggestions, put them in the comments below. We've never built a 3.2 liter.
Please, guys, do not say buy a 12 valve and do it. I hate when you guys do that and bother George with that. I mean, I really don't like that. It really, George gets
Stav's beyond humble. It's beyond humble.
Don't put in the comment section, go 12 valve, hashtag 12 valve life forever. You know what I mean? Please.
If you guys have any questions or you think we missed anything during the breakdown of this engine, put it in the comments below. We've never built a 3.2 before. We've normally just been 2.8 VR guys. We've learned a lot, but we still have a lot to learn about the 3.2.
And we got some stuff that we're going to be putting into this motor that we haven't used in other motors that we have.
That is true. And we're going to get into more details as the videos progress in the next couple of weeks, the more parts and other things trickle in. Again, tubular exhaust manifold from HST. Hopefully that comes in the next week or so. We got the pistons, rods that were coming in, and some other reinforcement goodies on the bottom end that we're waiting for. A lot of goodies, a lot of good things. What bearings we're going to be using, what parts. We're going to do a video specifically showcasing all the parts when they are here. So this way you guys have a parts breakdown. I know.
Used bearings.
Not going with used bearings. We're definitely going to go with coated bearings. I used Calico before on my 2.8. Very happy. Stav has King bearings on his 12 valve. He's very happy with those.
Because my 12 valve is the king.
So I'll probably end up going with Calico again. But again, we'll progress and we'll post more updates as things go along. For the B5, really quick. Front subframes are done. I just got to install them. I still haven't done the rears. I got everything pushed over to the side because I'm having some electrical installed. So I'm having a 110 and then 220 outlets so we can have the welder here. The welder that we do have keeps popping the circuit breaker on the side of my house there in the corner. So to avoid that, I'm actually getting something legitimately wired, such as 220 and then a dedicated 110 here against the wall, probably using that outlet that we opened up to take a look at. So we'll be able to do TIG, MIG, and all the other goodies, and then run all the shop power tools here in my home garage without having anything trip or burn out. But again, everything's moved to the side. As soon as the welder and everything is set up here in the next week or so, we'll start wrenching on the B5, dropping the Oem fuel tank, revamping the rear subframes, and then getting this thing back on her feet and up and running, as I'm beyond excited to have this thing rip around again. Again, look at her. Just so depressing to see her torn apart, but she's literally ready to go. I mean, motor, trans, got the new carbon clutches refreshed. I can't wait to drive it. I don't know what it's even going to feel like with the new subframe bushings and the whole revamp, the upgrades from 034.
It's going to feel like it did before, so is anything.
All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you guys for watching. Again, this was our R32/RS3 engine breakdown. And we got another video coming up in the following week on Sunday, so look out for that. But that's it. Again, any questions, comments, concerns, put them in the comment section down below, and we'll catch you guys on the next video. Till then, I'm George.
I'm Stav.
Thank you guys for watching. This is Malaka Motorsports. We'll catch you guys in the next video.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through eyes covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush.